I hope you can't hear
Hi,
me breathing.
people. Welcome to a new episode with rows of blue corn. Welcome, welcome. Who are you?
Allison Claire,
Oh no, I've seen you
I
before.
believe. Yeah, I've been around. Like, get around. I do
Okay.
things and I am places and I show up. Usually announced, sometimes unannounced, I suppose. But I just got an announcement here. I've been formally announced.
Wow. What's the announcement?
I'm here, world. I'm here and I'm ready to party.
Are we here? Can you check? Oh yeah, we're alive. This
Where are
is.
you? I don't see your video feed at all.
No, you don't. You're not supposed to. That's just for our viewers who paid for this. You didn't pay. Actually, you did.
Yes, I did. actually, I did.
Stop me from lying.
Unfair. Well, this defeats the whole purpose of doing this podcast.
I did this to myself, kids. Don't do this at home. Well, okay. What's the matter with you? Why are we doing this? What are we talking about today?
You chose the topic this time. Are you going to introduce it?
I did?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what she said.
You said the critical life, and I like that's all you gave me. You were like the critical life. Let's just talk about that.
I have no idea what I'm doing. Let's find out.
So what were you thinking? What were you thinking, Corin?
It's just a wordplay. You know, I love wordplays. I I don't think about wordplay, they just happen. I'm just freestyling this shit. You're the
What do you
one who
what
should
do you
be
think
prepared for our shows. I mean,
what's the
you're
critical
clearly the
life? Like
boss.
what were you thinking the critical like when you said those three words in conjunction with each other as a
I thought
topic idea?
I thought
Did
about the
you
movie, The Waking Life.
Oh,
I
The
don't know if
Waking
you've
Life?
seen it. This
It's been a long time, but I did when it
animation
first came
flick.
out, but it's been like 20 years since it came
Yeah,
out or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
It was like early aughts.
I'm still on it. Kinda.
That's good.
No, that's what I thought about. And also, about a lot of other stuff actually. My other stream with Van came to mind. You know, media critique, all that stuff. Being targeted for that, telling the truth. I don't know, or just giving people what you think the truth might be. That kind of stuff. And it's also critical as per essential part of the culture we live in, checks and balances. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know.
Have you ever heard of Walter Benjamin?
Oh no, of course, yeah, of course. Frankfurt School.
I'm sure that you
Hit me
have,
with a
right?
good Benjamin.
No, actually, I wrote, we can talk about it, although I don't know anything about him, so you'd need to
Oh,
do whatever talking you want to do here. But I did, like, that's the first thing when I was like, the critical life, the first thing that came up was Walter Benjamin, and I saw that he was sort of a contemporary of Adorno. Is that right? He was affiliated with Frankfurt School.
right.
So I don't know much about him, but it was like a name that popped up as something I might want to look into more. And I thought you might already know something more about him, other than he seemed like he was described as kind of eccentric, and maybe his ideas were not as easy to pin down.
He's a
as-
legend of sorts for doing his social studies in France, walking the arcades, the bougie temple of consumption, doing hashish. I mean, that's legendary. That's Benjamin.
It's living the dream, that's for sure.
That's the big picture. There's a lot of other stuff, and I'm clearly not qualified to give you a quick roundup. That's why he also fled Germany, the roundups. He didn't make it quite far. I think he killed himself. If I got that right. Tragic. Great man.
Yeah, I couldn't find it wasn't immediately present how he passed away, but it did seem like it was a young age, like in his 50s, maybe.
Yeah, guys,
It's like that's not natural, not
check out
natural
Walter
causes.
Benjamin. He's a big one.
I'm gonna have to do it. And I was looking up the definition of what to be critical means, and it means to discern or choose or decide, to be presented with a situation where you ask to make a judgment, and being critical means ability to make a decision. It has commonalities with the word crisis, just the same root word as crisis, but a crisis more or less denotes something negative is happening. Um, so I'm wondering, what do you think if there isn't a problem, is there a need to be critical about a situation or circumstance?
That's a funny thought. Oh, when there is no problem. Right. When there are
So
no humans left, then there is no problem anymore. Or what? I mean, this is so abstract, I can't follow.
well, surely in some okay, in any I think in any point in time, it's not just one thing existing out of space and time from every other thing. Um, as you go along in life, there it's usually the condition that there are problems, but there are also positive things happening simultaneously.
Yeah, that's probably not what critique would be concerned about. Usually, the positive things. I'm thinking also about the critical theory, and we just talked a little about immanent critique, where you don't focus on persons, on particular aspects, but try to point to the bigger picture, to systems at work, systems like capitalism, that's the usual one. But you can do this differently, and then you run into the point where you actually have to propose the negation to the positive in which things are negative. This is, and
Like, positive can't really exist unless there is a negative, like, if there's
uh,
no contrast,
the
then
positive
neither one of
means
them.
established stuff, established theories, something that's actually tangible. That's the positive in that sense. And the negation is essential doubt, but in a form tries to analyze what has been positioned, um, what's actually going on, you know, critical theory. I'm no philosopher. I'm just your stupid art guy who's doing it.
Oh, come on, I'm just your stupid book nerd that I've got 6 pages of notes, and I just feel like a nerd. But
You're a
but
nerd.
I could
Me
well,
too.
it can be
Welcome to the
true.
club. Why is
Um,
it always 6 pages?
no, before it was only 4. Sometimes it's 10. Um, so about critique and maybe people's preset, um modus operandi of going about critiquing, like seeking critical thinking, critical theory, and critique as how you approach the world, um, and how maybe that could cast some shadows again, like
Or the
you,
tinfoil hat, you think?
I was listening to a podcast some years ago, and I think it was on NPR, but it was about why people actually get a lot of enjoyment and actually get kind of addicted to sharing negative information, like stories of crisis and hardship. And essentially, the study found that there's much larger potential for, I think it's dopamine. It's a neurotransmitter. It gives your brain the feel good chemicals when you have shared something negative and someone else comes along and agrees with you or supports you, shares some kind of commonality with you, then it boosts you up.
Mhm,
And if you've started from a very low place, your potential for raising is higher than if you
mhm,
started at a positive place to begin with. Um, if you start at 0 and someone gives you 100, maybe you get up to 50. If you started at 50 in the first place and somebody gives you 100, then your potential maybe is only to get to 75, and that's only a boost that's like half as much of a boost, you know?
mhm.
So,
All those numbers seem made up. What
they
kind of
they totally
boost?
are. They're absolutely made up. I was just, like, making up my own scale. I do that a lot.
Yeah.
Make up my own rules.
Um, Book comes to
I'm
mind, Enjoyment Left and Right. It pretty much goes right into this aspect of enjoyment via consumption, essentially. And in this aspect, I'm thinking of meme consumption. And in a way, you're consuming complaints and perpetuating them. This is not critique. This is something else.
think
This is,
it's a catharsis for sure.
and I'm thinking of, I don't know, QAnon and whatever. It's on the right, the latest culture, the latest trend on, I can think of on the right. On the left, you probably, uh, I mean, conspiracy theories, yeah, sure. They are pretty prevalent. And those as well are usually myths combined with factoids or whatever. I mean, this is not, it's, for me personally, I gotta come clear here right away. I'm a 9/11 truther, you know. This was my entry in this world of critical theory. I had to be schooled. I was dumb too. Worked with too many assumptions that kind of were given to me as a normative, you know. Normative statements, like pretty regular. You just
I
assume this is all real and work with it, and turns out it isn't, and a lot of stuff snucks in, and you have to look closer. And doing your own research means you actually have to do the research, and it's fucking work. Like when you look at journalists, they try to find like two sources for the shit, look at the sources, try to put the sources in context. What did they, dude, the legwork involved with this is just amazing. I put a lot of effort in that just to be called the troll because you tend to piss on other people's parades and they hate you for that. So that's the other part of living a critical life. People hate you. That's usual. You lose a lot of friends because you're so fucking honest. And why don't you just lie to comfort their feelings? You run in a
I
lot of shit.
I think if you talk to any of my friends, they would absolutely say that this is true about me, that, like, if you wanted to be friends with me so I would agree with you, then maybe I'm not the friend for you because I mean, a lot of the times when I'm friends with somebody, it's because we do agree a lot of the time, but if it comes up where our ideologies differ and I need to, put in a position of just blindly agreeing with someone or telling them what I actually think. I will tell them what I actually think. And yeah, in that way, I think that's important. I think that that's what I think that's of more value. And unless it's unnecessary, like if there's really no reason to, it's not going to better anything or it's not going to help. If it's something that if the other person is open to maybe considering your point of view, or if you would make an ultimatum out of it. It's a subject where like you need this other person to express that they reflect the same values as you, or it's going to be a a red flag situation. um there's definitely sometimes where you don't have to disagree with people just to disagree, but also if it's important, you definitely should. But yeah, I guess my point about, and you're kind of bringing it up with meme culture, where people are just kind of tossing around factoids and jokes, and I think that back to that disparity of why people want to share the most critical or negative content. Um, it sort of leaves a little bit of a toxic environment because the people who share the negative stuff are there, and the people who maybe would have positive content to share just sort of peace out, because like what would be their motivation to stick around and share positive if they're already feeling positive?
Is that how that works?
To a certain extent. I mean, I know a lot of people who are like, "Oh, I'm healing," and so Facebook and social media in general has just become, it's beneath me a little bit.
Ooh,
Like,
wow.
I
Oh
mean,
my.
I get this opinion a lot that when people go on their healing journey, they just kind of disconnect from these spaces because it's been reinforced to them that they will be exposed to more negative content than positive content. And so to protect their peace, they leave. So there's inherently less positive
Oh.
continuing.
Oh
I,
wow. I'm not I'm not sad about that.
you're not,
They still have to do some healing, you know. When you're positive in this economy. I mean for real. Go get some healing, man.
I think you don't
Oh
think it
no.
takes a certain amount of like sadomasochism uh to to like continue to interact with people online when they're just being the worst.
The worst.
They're
I mean, come on. We're talking about
yes.
memes.
Yes, you
I'm posting the worst meme. I'm the worst. I'm also very funny, and
yeah.
I'm also posting
You're
positives.
sardonic.
Yeah, and also posting the positives. I'm kind of always kind of meandering around, and it also depends a lot on which memes I'm looking at. It's like total
We don't need to
coincidence, and
take it, don't take it too personally. I'm not talking about you directly.
I'm reflecting on what you said, and then I'm thinking, oh well, is this really a whole person feeling totally? I mean, I'm sure everyone has something, sees something negative too. I mean, do you have to be totally? That's an abstraction. What I'm trying to go at, and we're still talking about memes.
I am a big, I'm a big fan of
Me
memes.
too, which is
Just
why
like
I'm defending them.
they're kind of like junk food content. They're just like, I don't know. The ones I share are always just like funny and absurd and just, I don't know. I heard it was actually described as a disease, the way that they spread through social consciousness.
The virus.
A virus, yeah. Um, I went into different. layers upon layers upon layers of different
Oh my God.
scales that I think people like places where I feel arenas, if you will, of how people critique. And I started big and I was thinking about global level of crisis. And I think that global level crisis might be the meritorious crises that we really need to reserve the bulk of our problem solving skills to battle.
That's a
Um
way to put it.
I think I scaled out even further than that. It was like, you could think about the implications of our entire galaxy existing in a black hole or alien invasions, but I'm not necessarily sure how inside the circle of even influence those sort of topics are. And I don't know why would need to spend a whole lot of time honestly trying to critique if those that level of issues, because what are you going to do about it even if you found out the truth? So what? Like, what are you gonna how are you gonna implicate that? How are you gonna use that information? So, I think global level maybe is where we should start, and, there's just so many. There's pandemics and warfare and climate change and famine, and, I think the technology age and the advent of interconnectivity with people from all over the world has provided the generations alive right now with some tools and opportunities that we could really be harnessing to address these issues a lot better than we are, obviously. And I'm um unsure. I don't know why we don't. Like, I think there's just like some global crises, like world hunger, for example, we were talking about last week, where we know the solutions. Like, humanity has solutions to some of these crises that are causing so much suffering. And I guess, it goes back to greed, and that's it, right? It's just like some people deserve a little bit more and earned $1 trillion maybe. And
Yeah, there's layers to that as well. I mean, you just said it's obvious we could do more and we could solve this stuff. It's greed. Yeah, it's also institutions and media and a lot of capital and private interest
private
that's actually
interests.
not really interested in the same people we shit with flowers and stuff, us and the birds. It's just, it's also pretty clear that we need, and that's going to be the big thing there. To prevent extinction, we would need a different way of life, like socialism and less toxic bullshit. We could, this, you can't, you don't really, you can't come around this. And today, good was a good example for all this bullshit. I saw some documentary on Arte, some German, French um, public broadcaster, and they actually for some time did some good documentaries and whatnot. And they got at all this topic, climate change, pollution, capitalism, and then they had the fucking audacity to talk about cows and our consumer behavior. I was like falling from the chair. I was like, what the fuck, dudes? You didn't even get to mention the US military consuming, like, they are responsible for the third of all this. And then you have the military industrial complex producing all this shit. And now we are talking about, I don't know, already way more than half of all the fucking shit, and you morons have the audacity to talk about fucking cows. This is just slap in my face. Thank you, public broadcasting. You just you're just the fucking worst. That's
Like, maybe
propaganda,
maybe
man.
you could have talked about the real problem. I mean,
No,
peop
we have to turn away from
nothing
the
from
problem.
cows.
Oh no, don't talk about the military because Russia or whatever, man.
The US military complex.
I,
I think that's a whole that might be a whole mini series. It's certainly an entire other show. I have a lot of thoughts and ideas about how much I have a lot
yeah,
of critical thinking
yeah. And then
to
we can
explore about that topic.
we could add on with the international military industrial complex after that and fill another 5 shows. I mean, it's just bonkers. What I, what do I like to say? All those national security issues are essentially an international security issue, and that's our topic. There you go.
We're set for next week. I won't have to be asking you all week what we're going to talk about next Tuesday because I already know.
Yeah, we're already talking about it, kinda. So, and I'm glad we're doing this. This is
So,
fun and dark.
knew it. I honed in thinking about like a national or state level. I mean, after, you want to be critical at the global level. I think again, I didn't I literally just sat down and wrote out my thoughts about this. So I didn't cross reference or, if this is someone else's official opinion and then they have a designation that I don't have and some letters after their name. That's great. But
Hit us,
here's
hit
what
us
I
with
think.
your ideas in the comments. Give
I
us
think
all your intellectual quotes.
I
Keep them
I need
ready.
them honestly. Like I need that cross referencing. To
Mhm.
me, that's helpful to have someone else because I don't necessarily think that I play every single part real well. I don't think that would be fair of me to have to try to do. So that's not my forte. It's somebody else's forte. I am very comfortable letting it be their forte. And I will just say some shit shooting from the hip. But I think that the nation or state should exist to be an agent that is representing a more defined group of people's interests in how those global level problems get solved. It's like kind of an intercessor between like a smaller, more community or individualistic level and a global level. Like the entire point of having this smaller subgroup inside of the global scene is as a as like as a representation because just because there's not enough time in the day to for every individual to approach the global um,
Isn't it? Oh,
stage.
yeah, I'm not so sure about
I'm not
that.
saying that's how it operates. I'm saying
Oh,
idealistically, I think that this is the entire function of why we would establish this in the first place. Like,
mm,
why would we have this? What is the need for it? Um, but this level should be helping this group of people with our part to help solve the global crisis. But then turning inwardly, it should namely mostly exist to work towards helping communities, families, and individuals not be as individualistically impacted by the types of problems and crises that would befall us if it was every man for himself. So just saying, why would you even have a society if it wasn't to work for the common good?
oh
There would
wow.
be
Yeah,
no point.
sure.
That's the only point.
But here we are. telling
But
them
here we are.
we are
Um,
working for the common good and for democracy at the Hindu Kush, and I don't know, man.
well, currently speaking, as my position as a U.S. citizen, my nation is not doing as well as it could on either one of those fronts. I feel like we may be contributing to global problems more than aiding in finding solutions.
You don't
And I
say
feel
so.
like smaller groups and citizens are routinely thrown under the bus for the benefit of select private interests. Hi, I'm Captain Obvious. I like to say obvious things. I say them out loud with my big girl voice.
Hmm. Dang, I already lost my thought. Must have been a pretty boring one. No, it isn't. Wait, let me. No, I lost it.
No, you can find them.
I pretty much thought the same. Except maybe, uh, you know, I read too much Rosa Luxemburg. I guys read more Rosa Luxemburg. She's amazing. And there's this problem with telling ourselves that we're working for the good when we are also living under capital and its contradictions. So we all have to fight for our own family, our own survival, our own fortune, whatever. And that automatically pitches us against each other. You usually have to deal with people from your own class, from your own area, and you don't. That's class warfare is very complicated, but it works. And there you have it. So that's
But would
why,
we is there a need to compete? Like
n-
realistically, if we
no,
could all there's not really.
of course not. There's more reasons to actually cooperate. This is also how we got here, and the part we like to forget, and especially our political clowns, they like to represent capital interest, not really the people, except maybe on a regional. It's different. Then you have to be more in contact with your local communities, and then you likely represent their interest more. But still, you have to work with the system. The bigger system on the global scale is capital, and they got you surrounded real good. So whatever I'm doing, however I'm thinking about how this could be better and how we could solve our stuff with civic councils, like I don't know, the Chinese do, and they are pretty efficient. Also, in doing capitalism to compete, which they have to. This is all. I'm running in circles happening here.
We have I mean as far as I don't know if it's necessarily the same as a civic council, but we have a lot of civic councils in my municipality. Like we have a very active city council. But then within the city council there's like a human rights committee and there's a safe and livable housing committee
No,
and
no,
there's
not city. I'm talking
the-
civic councils. I mean, it's
like
essentially
for
the
the
same.
entire nation.
It's civilians, but when you look at the organization level of revolutionary Germany, where you had in essentially the big cities all the civic councils and they ruled over their own affairs, and it's just people going into the civic councils. It's not representative democracy, it's direct democracy.
Town hall sort of style? Just anybody open
Thing
participation?
kind of style, like the Nordic thing, where all the noblemen, noble women came together and had their votes. And yeah, essentially free people coming together. democratically
Yeah,
choosing.
I'd really like, and we've been trying to actually I've been I've been trying to contact my own state representative since April. That would be Mary Miller, and she just will not deign to communicate with us because I guess because we don't represent a private interest group or some faction of the voting body that she finds important enough to stop by and talk to us. But we've been trying to do a town hall meeting with her, and I am a big advocate of public interaction um, with politics. I mean, it's supposed to be a representational government. And if you are a citizen, you should feel empowered to be a part of that process. And limiting it or telling us that you don't care about our voice to the extent that you will not even talk to us is
Same.
a huge bad sign. Like, I don't understand,
Those are the
why.
limits of the critical life. There are
I
actual
understand that she was
walls.
clearly told not to come talk to us, but
There are actual gatekeepers, and there are
and they're at the Town
also.
and Country Suites out on 48th Street,
Why
so
should she waste her time, her precious shopping time, with some with the how the peoples who just don't
sh
matter in
I
her
don't
spreadsheets? It's just
she
it's a
doesn't
quick
seem to be
calculation.
as to get critical, like, I won't deep dive into Mary Miller's psychology, but I think that she lapdogged a little too heavy for Trump, but maybe she didn't get chosen as bottom bitch. Kristi Noem is clearly bottom bitch, if we're being honest. Um,
The face
so I
melter.
think Mary
Oh
sort
my
of
god.
she sort of was like, this is maybe a little too intense. This doesn't actually reflect my values, and I don't hear a lot from her, although when I did hear from her, it was like saying Hitler wasn't such a bad guy. So she did her damage.
He did amazing postcards. She should really look
Yeah,
at.
out of Kansas.
It was the postcard painter, right? I don't know who you mean.
Mary Miller?
Ah, she's so smart, man. She knows all the artists. No, I'm joking. I'm always thinking South Park, and man, that's just amazing show. You've seen South Park, didn't you?
I saw the season premiere of this new season, but I haven't been following along since then. But
You
in
ha-
general, I'm a big Matt Stone and Trey Parker fan. I like a
so
lot of their content.
her face is coming off a lot, and she needs all the people involved with her face and fixing it up again, or otherwise it will just come off.
Who is this?
Who's Christina?
Oh, Christina, yeah.
Yeah, Homeland,
I'm sure that they had her shoot her dog again
Miss
in the
Homelander.
cartoon. Oh my gosh. Rip Cricket. We'll never forget.
This one is meandering way more than I was
That's
prepared for.
okay.
Okay, where we at?
Here and now.
That's bad.
Yeah. So did Donnie really get $230 million for his lawyer fees when he was prosecuted and convicted of felonies? Like, did he really I know he proposed giving himself $230 million. I wrote that down after my little jaunt about private interests and how our nation is clearly working for private interests these days and not the good of the people.
Yeah, it
Prime
all went
example.
into a Trump Tower. One
I
of
know
the.
you floated that idea, but I've been hearing I do try to pay attention to the news only because these things may affect my life, but also it's always so terrible that I don't like to feel sick 24/7, so sometimes I try to minimize, my exposure to what fresh hell hath been wrought day to day.
Actually, I gotta say, I feel more sick when I watch people like Merz just lie into the camera, tell us that Hamas has all those women and children as human shields, and that's why they made Israel do it and made us Germans deliver all the weapons. That's just straight up fucking insane. I get really sick with this kind of bullshit. When I watch
Yeah.
news and people, presenters, journalists, not lying to me, being honest about it, and might it be, then I can deal with it. I can. It's something else, and I don't know. I got a different, but maybe
It's
I'm just watching too much news.
I don't know, I so the I don't know, that whole human shield idea, Israel was if if they were if they were settlers, then it was they shouldn't have been inside West Bank or Gaza in the first place because that's not Israel's territory. So, you,
That's what settlers do.
but it's essentially like you wouldn't have been able. It would have been either a prisoner of war situation, or it's not even necessarily like the Palestinian territories had a lot of room to take hostages. Um, I mean, they would have been prisoners of war because they were invading a territory that wasn't them. And their government, the Israeli government, should have absolutely never sent people inside of a different nation's borders
We
in the
didn't
first
even
place.
we didn't even recognize the fact that Hamas actually came to power. It's just this thing goes way deeper. I just saw another podcast I should probably quote, um, where they essentially followed up on the idea that this is still Crusader times and this is a somewhat prolonged one, and we are still in the Crusades. And given the psychology involved in all this madness, it's not totally off the charts in my view. So uh, there is this religious um, layer involved, and uh, you don't really get to that when you talk about settler colonialism as such. This is more technical, and we probably have to talk about ideology as well, because when you look at people being not people, like the people you look to eye to eye, then that's probably the problem. And we do a lot to not talk about this, and that just the normative and being
Yeah,
normalized, and this is so
that
cruel.
I think that's probably I think that can tie back to that level of stark othering where you're defining your identity, what you are, based on what you aren't. Um,
Or what you
to
are, it
me,
really doesn't
I
matter.
yeah, yeah, that level of identity politics is not helpful at all. Where we want to see some of these people as United States citizens and some of them as Central American citizens, or if we want to see them as Israeli people or Palestinian people, it's just like, or if you want to see them as Germans or Muslims, it's just like, why do we're all just people. Like, we're just people. And I don't know.
Yeah, that should be obvious, and we need a federation and need to get rid of all the nationalists and all the nation states. Here we go, making a lot of enemies.
No, that would be help. I mean, I think like my critique of the national level platform, how it's failing on both sides. It's not helping us solve our global crisis. It's just pushing accelerationism, which is actually making our crisis worse faster. And it's not helping individuals and communities, it's serving private interests. So why do we continue to have it at all if it's not helping us in any way necessarily?
Mhm.
Not really in any way. I can't necessarily think of a way that we might not be better off if we just dropped it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the same competition we have on the individual level. And you get that on the national level, on a global scale, with nuclear weapons and all that shit being actually real. I still can barely fathom the number of nuclear weapons combined. I still can't. It's just, it's a lot of firepower. We
What's
can
that?
kill us all over a few times with that, but I forgot the number. So
And what's
there's
the end goal of having all that stuff exist? Like,
money.
just okay. And I think that I guess this is a little bit into my conspiratorial leanings, but I definitely think that there are some institutions, military institution being one of them, where it's just sort of an excuse to, siphon off some of the population and purposefully kill people just
Cannon fodder.
so there won't be as many people on the earth and we won't have to consider as many people anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's certainly not about preserving human life. That's obvious.
A lot of wars have
But is it
been
actively is
waged
it
for
actively
that.
sometimes? I think it actively is sometimes about.
Yeah, on the level of appearance maybe, but there are usually more interests at work than might appear. And you look at, for example, the crisis in the totally how do they say in the MSM, the unprovoked invasion of Russia, totally unprovoked. If you ignore the dead people that just died in some other anti-terror operation
Is that
that was
recent? Is
sponsored
that right
by
now
us.
happening?
Yeah, that's the war in the Ukraine. And it all had a foreplay and it's completely lost in the media. It's always those simple narratives and they help to push people in those tribal tribal thoughts in the yeah, and you get pitched against each other, and then you have the people saying, "Oh no, we can't have war with Russia. We will have to make peace." And no, you're a traitor. And the Russians, no, they attacked the. I mean, it's just on on the on the face of it, it's all just stupid. And there are a lot of people dying, and Ukraine has a lot of problems with manpower and people who try to evade the system. They don't get treated too well, but Western media doesn't like to report about that. It's always Russia. And there we go with the media critique again. It's not nice. But yeah,
I
what was the
think
point?
here
Why
we
did
always have,
we?
I don't know, we have a lot of sympathies for Ukraine.
Of
here.
course. I mean, there's people dying. It's war. It's horrible. It needs to end. And that's the thing. The cannon fodder needs to be delivered so you can make money off this shit because that's we don't have a really good economy. It's being tariffed. So this is all coming together.
That's yeah, that's another thing that I know is happening and I see it reflected more and more, and it's sort of just like I don't I feel very powerless against it just being a reality. So I keep up the good fight against all of the things that are happening and seem to maybe be pushing into happening more, unfortunately. But
Right.
but yeah, they just keep happening. So um, to me, all the pretty language and countless eloquently formatted dissertations really boil down to the truth that some people are just greedy, conniving little sociopaths who truly do not care about anyone or anything beyond what they are allowed to have for themselves. And at a certain length, I think our current leadership actually gets a level of perverted enjoyment out of negative critiques that they're given, because it sort of feeds their martyr complex. They're definitely rolling with the branding of a bad boy with the heart of gold, and think that's an extension and extortion of how many people have been malconditioned to view themselves at an individualistic level. But I think a key difference is people leveling this kind of, um, oh, they just have Trump derangement syndrome. They just don't like me, even though I'm actually such a nice, wonderful guy line. They're not really taking into consideration that these people are just narcissists. Like they don't really they've never really experienced generational poverty or trauma or hardship firsthand. A lot of them haven't even ever tasted it for a short while, and many of the individual citizens who see and hear that, I think as far as MAGA, like why people would relate to MAGA, I think it's because on the individualistic side, those people have been exploited and they do get judged and treated poorly. So psychologically, I can understand to an extent why people align with that identity. I just think it's Stockholm syndrome.
There's a lot there. Uh, okay, let's unpack that. Is this really is this really about people, or is this a system that continuously produces sociopaths? Just
I think that the sociopath is like I think they know how to push the right buttons.
yeah, of course.
I
They
think they're clearly pushing their agenda on purpose and just exploiting people's emotions, but the people themselves individualistically are feeling it honestly.
yeah, that's what I am. In a way, I'm also a sociopath traumatized by capitalism. This is just some different kind of psycho shit. But you know what I'm getting at? You can say they are just victims. And we continuously produce victims which are also producing new victims with their acts because they are not victims only. And that is also, in a way, true for everyone under capitalism with its contradictions depending on your position. So I'm trying to get at is this thing with Erich Fromm again. The idea that you technically have to colonialize yourself before you can go out into the world, colonialize the rest, and exploit it. And there's also the authoritarian personality that goes into psychology now. But yeah, in essence, this is all just cope, and the authoritarian personality is the usual cope, and it has different forms and there's variants and variations, but it's still the same. And so this auto-authoritarian bullshit. So,
I think I
mm,
wonder if sometimes, like, if there was ever a period where a society was I wonder if it's been broken the just the whole entire time it's been broken, or at what point
they point
it
at the Renaissance. That's what Erich Fromm was about the idea of liberalism, individualism, all that was essentially the driver of global trade, which was the primitive accumulation before capital in theory. But I don't. You could say this is the birthplace of capitalism. It was the Italian free states, the republic, the rich traders coming up. This is also where Machiavelli was pretty active. This is all very old. And you could say it's part of the problem. I don't.
yeah, that would make us that I think yes, and maybe someplace in that transition between um like the Greek philosophers and the beginnings of democracy with the Greek forums, and then I think from there the Italian um, Roman Empire started to take rise. Maybe that was maybe that was the beginning of the end.
Yeah,
It's
or
all
the
been downhill since then.
Greek philosophy. I mean,
What about the aqueducts?
my hands are bound to this mast, and then I have the crew at the rudders, and they have their ear waxed so they couldn't hear so they can't hear the sirens singing. Only I can do so. But my hands are bound to the mast, so I can do any bullshit, but I can listen to the sound of the sirens because I'm the nobleman here and this is my ship and I'm bound to the mast.
Oh no, oh no. I'll take one for the team, boys.
Yeah, that was the introduction of the dialectic of enlightenment by Adorno and Horkheimer, and they went there as well. Odysseus, pretty pretty on point. So, where we at with it?
We're down from the national level to like the critical being critical of friends and families and loved ones, and I could do with a whole lot less of that generally. And that's not to say that there aren't plenty of situations and conditions when people in our day-to-day lives do need to be eyed critically. Again, like we were talking about friends, where if you're having an issue where your values need to be asserted, that's one thing, but are critical approaches sometimes causing harm? And are we looking for problems sometimes where there do not need to be problems? And why do we do that? Is that part of the preset of using our critical thinking skills, is that it's sort of hard to turn off and toolbox of critical thinking? in even in situations where maybe we don't need to be as critical because there's not a problem. Like there's nothing that really needs to be fixed. It's just relating to other people.
Yeah, funny you would say that. Uh, I've got a history with that as well. Uh, be more supportive of your people. This, this is not. I like the way this is going. Maybe we can surround a place of affirmative and loving critique that's constructive in your personal relations. I know it's possible. I've seen it work a lot.
Yeah, I
It's
think
also why I'm here. I have to think about the supporters I do have. Shout out to the supporters. Uh, yeah,
um, we're I think we're at an hour, but I still have like two more pages of stuff to say. You want to
I don't know.
do
Can
you
you
want me to
extract the juicy part and we do the juicy parts in the Zoom
Okay, okay, so you
and
want me to say any more about it now, or do
try to
you
lure people and be part of the convo? I don't know.
um
But you can actually go on. I've got some time always for you.
okay, well, is it out of is like are we sometimes critical of people around us um if someone else isn't the cause of the problem, that it might be us that's the problem, and it's easier to sustain cognitive and emotional distance from an other, like a different entity, than grappling with our own shortcomings. Maybe like are we maybe sometimes being unfairly critical of other people like because we don't want to go to therapy essentially. like like maybe we should work on ourselves. Just
That's an
I'm
interesting
just
one.
free associating thoughts here.
Oh no, I
Um
like that idea because, in critical theory and immanent critique doesn't really care about people and personal. It's usually about systems and procedures, and you try to do quality assessments and point eventually to a way to make it better, you know? So you're not really concerned about that. So, in a way, I would.
Yeah, but how do you just turn it off when you shift? Like I understand code shifting and how, you approach this situation with one mindset, but then you approach your interpersonal relationships differently, but I also think that it might be kind of hard. I would imagine that it bleeds back and forth. Where I mean, it certainly, it bleeds into people's worldviews and their mind states concerning what's happening at a national and global level, just their raw emotions, just how they feel about it,
Mm,
colors their perceptions there, just like what makes them feel good to believe
yeah,
or rally against. So it also makes sense that like your imminent critique would bleed into sort of if that's the mindset that you if that's the toolbox you've been provided.
well, we're all humans. I remember a lot of heated debates, and you can do a lot and try to be really careful and pose a really poignant critique and whatever, and people will still tend to take it personal when they are emotionally involved in some way. And that's a
I don't know that
sign
that's a fault.
for me to, I don't know, I react differently by now. Usually I don't really even bother because why? Those, yeah. I mean, we're talking about emotions again and being lobotomized, if I'm mean about it now, you know, goes back to our other stream. Hey, we are building a real catalog here. Just check out our other shit. Go check out the catalog, kids.
Earlier, I said we are able to feel more interconnected now due to technological advances than I think maybe at any other point in humanity. Um, but has that led to a decreased imperative to establish common ground in the relationships that actually define our time in our lives? Maybe taking for granted that it's fine if this person doesn't agree with us because we can just easily go out and find someone else who does reflect whatever it is we're seeking to find. It seems like another double-edged sword. I mean, it can be very positive to find community outside of your immediate contacts, friends, and loved ones. When, for example, you're facing a specific issue that the people around you don't necessarily know how to relate with you about, such as if you're facing cancer or terminal illness, might be very helpful to speak with people who have gone through a similar life experience, or um, if your political ideology starkly contrasts with the people around you, it may be very comforting to seek out camaraderie with people who more accurately reflect your values. And if you're being isolated or abused, it can absolutely be a literal lifeline to keep in contact with people outside of those toxic relationships. And really just educational purposes, we can learn about different people and ideas and cultures. I'd say, I dare say, then at any point in human history, like our sheer ability to connect with each other is in it. It just floors me all the time. Just like how taken for granted it is. This is not how most of humanity has lived through most of time that we've been on this planet. So that can be very positive, but I am also curious if it's leading to less motivation to invest time and effort into relationships. Like, is it easier to just go find out whatever we want? Like, now that that connectivity is there, I mean, I guess I'm throwing a critical wrench at back and forth at this idea of interconnectivity and how it is very positive, but it also kind of leading to people being less tolerant at a at an individualistic level.
Oh, you did this to yourself. You threw the wrench and it came back. It was a boomerang. It was nice. Very good. Uh, I just don't think it's that. I wouldn't make this clear distinction that there are toxic relationships and there. I learned a lot with those, and at some point, someone came to me and gave me mad props for the way I was dealing with it at some point. I had this professional, detached, factual, leave me alone, you know? And that was just for other people who came to hear part of the conversation or maybe be part of it, but didn't really want to raise a voice to not get attacked by a certain toxic person. uh, so they kept their mouth shut and came to me back later. And that was a kind of eye opener for me because you don't really see yourself in that way. Usually you're just too involved with the toxic shit you're dealing with, and you kind of tend to also be then at some point maybe even emotionally pissed off or whatever, and you don't really get to see the positive side of things, which is actually eye-opening for onlookers because sometimes they just tend to behave so bad, especially in online boards or whatever, online chat, that they make a total fool out of themselves. And it all started with them assuming you are the fool. And so you got to, I don't know, somehow turn this around with being an honest fool. And that's, for me, the way to deal with it, because it's also fun and we laugh a lot.
I think that at the end of the day, that's sort of you're either going to be an honest fool or a dishonest fool.
Yeah, we're fools either way. We're being
Yeah,
fooled.
at least, at least know it. At least own it. I mean,
We're the new
I don't
fools
think
in
that there's,
town.
I don't know. I don't think there's necessarily any,
Nice way
I don't
to
know,
put it.
any demerit in being wrong from time to time. Like I think that it's more honorable to just admit that you're not always right um, at that length, and play when you're asked to play the fool, do it graciously.
Oh, admit mistakes and even, I don't know, stand by them and try to better yourself. That seems to be a character trait by now. It's hard to come by.
Um, the rest of this is just about, I think what I will do is maybe we'll say some of this in the after party Zoom, and I can also just give you these notes and give you the type up, like if you're interested in reading exactly how I wrote it down. Um, and we can provide that to the audience if anybody's interested. The 6-page notes, maybe someplace.
And if you're not, still show up. We have
Yeah.
people in the Zoom calls. I don't
Yo
even know
yo
why
yo.
I'm doing this. I'm doing this for you people. People said or alluded to the fact that we had to do a podcast. Now get involved. We're going to end here. Thanks for being with you. Join us in the Zoom in, I don't know, 10 minutes or something. We say 17, 2:30. Bye, people. Thanks for watching us. Hit all the buttons if you want this to
Beep.
continue.